Mainly, they created an authoritarian security state apparatus.
The towering figure in this new landscape was Egypt's Jamal Abdul Nasser, an army colonel and former Nazi sympathizer, who helped carry out a coup d'etat in 1952. Within 2 years, Nasser had seized total control of his country and was promising to unify the Arab world.
Nasser was probably the most popular figure in the modern history of the Middle East. And he wanted to bring it into the modern age, and he had all kinds of ideas about how to do this.
Advocating justice through socialism, Nasser initiated a massive land reform program and pursued an anti-Western foreign policy. But needing arms and money to obtain these goals, he also drew Egypt into the orbit of the Soviet Union.
Most Arabs will tell you that the United States was widely admired in the Arab world in the 1940s and 50s, much more admired than the Soviet Union. They did not admire this godless communist empire. But for reasons of state, the regimes, the dictators allied themselves with the Soviet Union, which proved in the long run to be a disastrous mistake.
The Soviets took over the role previously played by the Third Reich as the patron and protector of anti-Western forces. And they played it very well and very successfully, more successfully than the Nazis had done.
As the Cold War progressed, Soviet influence expanded across the Middle East through Egypt, Iraq, Syria, and beyond, reshaping political alliances.
People seem to forget that the closer relationship between the United States and Israel is a result of the strong Russian penetration of the Arab world. The Soviets were moving in strength, establishing bases, making treaties, and beginning even to direct the foreign policies of Arab countries. And it was then and only then that the United States began to move closer to Israel.
Nasser's policies also energized the forces of extremist Islam. When seizing power, Nasser had promised to work with the Muslim Brotherhood. But as his regime unfolded, he increasingly marginalized them. Infuriated, the Muslim Brothers made several attempts on Nasser's life, provoking widespread arrests.
Nasser put a lot of the Muslim Brothers in jail, and they sat there languishing in jail, and they were confused because they thought that after World War II, if they got the British out of Egypt, that would solve all the problems, and Egyptian society would naturally go back to its Islamic moorings. But that didn't happen.
In prison, many of the Muslim Brothers were executed. But on the street, the movement was growing. By the late 1950s, the Brotherhood had over 500,000 members and had formed an alliance with the United States, which poured money into its efforts, hoping to thwart Nasser and contain communism. But Nasser's economic policies were already failing, even with Soviet support.
What you get in Egypt, as well as in other countries in the region, is a growing, almost permanent economic crisis. Rapidly increasing population, with no corresponding increase in the means of feeding that population.
In 1967, trying to draw attention away from his economic woes, Nasser led the Arab states in a massive military buildup with the goal of destroying Israel and thus forever expelling Western influence from the region. In response, Israel launched a preemptive attack, routing the Arab armies and taking control of lands, including the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, and Jerusalem.
The 1967 war, in which Israel is able to defeat the Arab armies in 6 days, is the great tragedy of modern Arab history, because not only had they not succeeded economically, politically, they couldn't even defeat this tiny country.
The defeat of 67 was certainly an encouragement to what we might call fundamentalist Islam. It strengthened their case, saying, you've been doing all the wrong things, this is what it gets you. You try to do things the Western way, and you are defeated and humiliated.
The Arab world handled its defeat at the hands of Israel very, very badly. It is out of the ruins of 1967 that emerged the worst dictatorships that the modern Middle East has ever seen. Tyrannies that exceed in their brutality anything that was present in the Middle East before 1967. Intelligence networks and secret policing systems that were extraordinarily large, gargantuan type of structures, completely unrelated to the wealth-producing abilities of the societies.
These were Muslims killing Muslims, Arabs killing Arabs, Muslims bludgeoning each other's freedoms and imposing martial law. The notion that it's always an outside force, it's always somebody else who is doing this to us, simply does not stand. We have never needed the oppressive West to oppress our own.